diversity of religions and denominations for a while. And I would love to see like a peace treaty between the Shia Muslims and the Baha'is, which I've drafted. I've drafted a peace treaty. And I want people to sign that. You know, you're all welcome to sign this, and people that watch my talks. I'd like to see millions of people sign the peace treaty, which is it's called the Interfaith Peace Treaty. It means I have my faith, you have yours, but I'm not going to attack and kill you because of yours being different from mine. That seems the basic, courtesy we owe to each other on this planet. Okay, and then, so those are the three. And then you can see there's a sort of chain of logical connections here. And if we can actualize the real potential within them, I think then we could get peace. I mean, there are Baha'i mediators and negotiators that can help mediate the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. Their Universal House of Justice should step in and offer. These people are wise people, you know, and they're neutral. They're on the side of goodness for all humanity's sake. So let's pray that it, bears fruit. Yes. Comments.
One of the concerns could be also that interfaith peace treaty is nice, but where is the faith? If, in Russia or in Ukraine or in the America, I'm not sure the faith is that high.
Well, that's an interesting comment. I will. I've been thinking about this in my writings on the commentary on St. Matthew's Gospel, because there's a famous exchange when Jesus goes to Capernaum and the centurion comes to him and says, "I've got a servant who's really, really sick. Please heal the person." And Jesus says, "Well, I'll come visit you later." And the centurion says, "No, you don't need to do that. I know that you can just order that he's healed and it will be healed." So Jesus said, "Okay, so be it. Your faith has cured him." So then in my commentary I talk about what does that mean, your faith has cured him? What kind of faith? And that led to a whole discourse about, the nature of faith. And I was thinking about interfaith does depend on faith. And if people don't have any faith, or they self-define as just, I don't have any faith, at all, you can't really do much interfaith work. And that is a problem, which you've raised. Could we deal with that next time? Because it's such a big one.
Yeah.
That I would love to talk about faith.
Yeah.
And I can quote from the book I'm writing. But I would argue, I suppose, in my, just off the cuff, I would say that one can also have faith in humanistic ideals. One can also have faith in atheistic ideals. It's still a kind of a faith. One can have faith, there are, to invert the discourse, the box called Satanism, which is a new religious movement, 106, some people have faith in Satan. They say that actually God is a tyrant and should be opposed. So faith comes in many, many packages and forms. And I think that to really get an interfaith healing for the planet, all those should be on the table. We should discuss them all. And I think then we would find, really, ultimately, it's about faith in humanity that's at stake here. Do we have faith in each other as human beings? Will we live up to the phrase Homo sapiens? I have faith in that. I was brought up to believe in humanity. I'm a humanist, as well as an everything elseist, So I'd like to keep some kind of faith.
Sapiens means
wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll come back to that now. Okay, look, can we move to our Tarot of the Gods, final thing we do in the Philosophy Club? Very exciting. We consult the divine archetypes. Now, one doesn't have to believe in the gods to appreciate the beauty of the traditions and the deities. One can be a kind of Jungian humanist and see them as archetypes, and that's fine. But let's just imagine that which gods would like to comment on what we've been discussing and where we are as a planet, where are we going as a planet? I mean, maybe the Council of Gods are going to say, well, it's not worth saving humanity. It's a failed experiment. They're too stupid. Let's go and invest in another planet. You know, I hope not, because these represent the quintessence of the spiritual wisdom of humanity. Our discernments. One of them is Ahura Mazda. Okay, you choose one. No, only one. You've got two there.
Oh dear.
Okay, thank you. Right. And, right, let's have Armel, you go next. Just take the one. Okay. Good, good, good. And you, Sam. Right. Okay. Right. Jan, who have you got?
Knight of Fair Quetzalcoatl.
Okay.
This sounds Mexican.
He is, yeah, he's South American, Mesoamerican. The Knight of Air. Okay. Well, this is from the Latin American religion, which would be in box 8, South American. And he is, it's interesting, in a sense, the story of Quetzalcoatl is similar to the Zoroastrian myth we were talking about, because Quetzalcoatl is everything a good god should be. He brings lovely rains, he brings fertility, he brings love affairs, he brings peace, he loves peace, and everyone loves him, right? But he has an enemy who absolutely hates him and always seeks to destroy him and defeat him. And the enemy eventually wins and forces Quetzalcoatl to leave the coast of Mexico and pushes him out on a boat, and he has to vanish and disappear. And the enemy loves war, human sacrifice, killing, murder, rape, doesn't like love, he likes sex, likes drugs and everything. And Quetzalcoatl has to go. So it's like the Ahura Mazda Ahriman story. And but the Mexican religion believed that Quetzalcoatl will come back. He's not gone forever. And it's very much like the story of the return of the Messiah, the one that's been rejected. It's like the Christ story. The good God, Jesus, was killed, destroyed, defeated, but he will return.
And Quetzalcoatl was Aztec? Maya?
He was pre-Aztec, really, but yes, the Aztecs respected him.
Yeah.
But he's also there in the Mayan and other cultures, and now he's become a sort of generic deity, loved all over, South America.
It's got a great name.
Yes, it means the feathered serpent.
Ah, the plumed serpent.
The plumed serpent, yeah. And it's thought that it refers to the Kundalini. When it comes into flowering, it reaches enlightenment. So it's within all of us, the feathered serpent. But what's interesting is that when the conquistadors turned up in Mexico, they thought it was Quetzalcoatl that had come back. They thought Cortez and the Christians, who were talking about Christianity, that must be Quetzalcoatl's people.
Yeah.
So, it's there's some interesting history here, and some modern neo-pagans believe that history will end happily, that Quetzalcoatl is coming back. But I would say, as a Jungian, that it's a psychological state that's coming. It's when we achieve enlightenment
I noticed
individually.
that Ahmed has a book on Jung as well.
Okay, yeah,
You have a book of Jung's
at home.
writings. Maybe you borrowed it from Thomas.
Vous avez un livre chez vous de Jung, de Carl Jung.
The Jung, yes,
Carl
his
Jung,
life,
il a vu
his
ça,
life,
oui.
his life, ma vie.
Ok, c'est intéressant.
Autobiography. Yes.
Autobiography.
Okay.
Okay.
C'est très important, ça. Ouais. So, sorry, what were you saying? Jan?
Yeah, I was wondering whether Quetzalcoatl left through the city of Coatzacoalcos on the Gulf of, is it Gulf of America?
The Gulf of Quetzalcoatl, we should call it. Is that, you know that coast from your Navy times, your
Yeah.
seafaring?
Yeah, I've been in Coatzacoalcos. There's
Maybe
a river
that's...
that comes down there. I don't know.
Oh, right. Well, could you do some research on that? Because that might be something you could find off the internet.
No, good check.
It might be, that's true. I don't know. But yes, I think the the phrase of Kant, sapere aude, the greatest act of daring is to dare to be wise. We also have to have courage. So even if you're beset by enemies, you're confused, you're surrounded by lies, we have to, the Quetzalcoatl energy is what is actually standing for truth and is powerful enough to make a difference. But we don't seem to have got there yet. I think what happened at the end of the Cold War in 1990, my generation thought we'd got there, we were going to live in peace now. But it seems that the forces of darkness had other plans. So we just have to keep going in faith, going back to that word. I think that's important. And there are stories like Osiris, who's another figure that is defeated, killed, but then comes back through Isis's love, and then is the Lord of the Dead. King Arthur's another figure who's a great hero for the Celtic and the Druid people, and yet will return at the end of time to lead the forces of right. And of course Christ. So he's in that that dying saviour tradition. Okay, what's the next one we've got? Right, we've got the King of Water. And the King of Water is the rainbow snake. And this is from the Australian Aboriginal tradition. So these tarot of the gods, I've taken the chief gods from all different continents and cultures and religions. This is the most important deity of the Australian Aboriginals. And of course it's a really hot, arid, dry country, huge deserts. My mother went there in the 1930s. And
Your grandfather used to.
he used to buy wool there.
Buy wool,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
course,
So
yeah.
he was out there, Herbert Clough. But the rainbow snake stands for water, so he's the king of water. And the Aboriginals knew where to find water, even in the desert. They would have secret, caches, and the rainbow snake stands for. The rainbow, of course, appears when water's in the offering, when rain is about to come, and is therefore seen as a fertility god. Interestingly enough, the rainbow snake is surrounded by the green parrot girls, who are his muses. So he's quite a god. Now, the snake image, which was taken to Australia, it seems from about 50,000 BC onwards, when our early ancestors made it to Australia. The snake had also gone with other emigrations of early humans, including to the Americas. So you end up with the feathered serpent, which is also a snake image, in Mexico. And also in India, Shiva is associated with the snake. Apollo has a snake for the caduceus of Asclepius, which is a symbol of healing. And there is a book not yet written by comparative religion scholars about how ancient the snake is. The snake ends up in the Bible as a force of evil, but actually not. Goethe made the point you made, that evil is necessary for good. That if we hadn't eaten the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, history would have been very boring. We had to have that lesson. and Goethe said, we had to eat the apple to become wise. So there's a chap who's professor of Sanskrit at Harvard University, has written a book about mythology of all peoples. He argues that they all go back to common sources, and that this snake motif was taken early on. And also he's the most important god in the African culture. Da is the snake god. He's in the pack, and seems to be the primal ancestor of the whole lot.
Lots of dinosaurs were feathered, weren't they?
That's another thing. Yeah.
Amazing. It makes you wonder what.
Well, the
function
birds are
did-
descendants
Of
of.
course, but
Yeah.
what function did they have to terrestrial dinosaurs?
I didn't know that. How do they know that dinosaurs are feathered? Have they found tracings in fossils? and
Superb
stuff?
fossil remnants, absolutely immaculate.
Really,
When
with
you go to
feathers.
China, yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that. That's interesting. But I know the birds are all descended, and I personally love birds.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you're
yeah.
a great bird watcher, aren't you? So.
Yeah, very amateur. Yeah.
So there's a Rainbow Snake Festival in Australia, and he's an important deity. So I think the rainbow is another important giveaway for all humanity. There's the Norse rainbow, bridge between earth and heaven. There's the rainbow of Noah, and it's a symbol to me of interdimensionality. The colours, which Newton explored, the physics of it, shows how all the worlds are interconnected, which was the Druid metaphysics, that the gods and humans we interface. So I think it's an auspicious card telling us not to give up. It may seem we're in the middle of a desert and there's no wisdom anywhere, but just keep going. We'll find it, and the rainbow snake will
That's what I thought yesterday.
will deliver. Yeah, like you were on the road in the storms and the rain and the snow,
Yeah,
and
I
then
have faith.
a priest of the rainbow snake turned up. Yeah, good. Okay, and then the last card. What have you got?
It's Pan Ku.
Ah. Okay. Well, this is just to dampen down a bit. This is Ahriman having the last laugh. This is the falling tower of the tarot, which represents catastrophe.
When one talks about the tarot,
Yeah.
all these cards are always the same?
No.
No, not
The
at all.
basic archetype pattern of the tarot was fixed
Yeah.
in like the 1700s, 1800s, or even
Okay.
earlier.
Okay.
But different people come along like me, and we adapt that to the particular thing we want to explore.
Okay.
In my case, it's the male deities.
And the
Yeah.
images, they're rather nice.
They were done by a
drawings.
Syrian artist who came
Okay.
here, and who must be utterly distraught at what's going on in Syria at the moment.
Yeah,
She was an Orthodox Christian from Syria
yeah.
who came and lived here and did the paintings
They're
beautifully.
rather nice. Yeah. I like them.
Yeah. Anyway, Pan Ku is the Chinese god of creation and destruction, and so I think he is equivalent to the tower in the tarot, normal tarot, and Pan Ku is an ultimately benevolent deity. He's the creator god of the ancient Chinese Taoists and so on. And he has temples in Taiwan. But in a sense, the whole world is the temple of Pan Ku. He creates this planet. And we would say in Hebrew that he represents the Elohim, which is the creator in Hebrew. He's called the great architect of the universe.
That's a popular
Which is Masonic concept.
concept.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
And he created the whole universe. He chiseled the universe into being. It took him 18,000 years. What was he chiseling? Well, the rocks of eternity, of course. So he's like a sculptor who's creating the universe. And, of course, all these mythologies were there long before advanced telescopes and technology could see exactly how big the universe is. I mean, now we might want to revise our concept of Pan Ku, because but there's a temple, Pan Ku King Temple, built in 1809, located in the Guangdong province of China, at the foot of the Panku King Mountain. And archaeological records indicate the area has been around as a place of worship since at least, nearly 2,000 years ago. There are dances held, festivals on his birthday.
And what's he do pushing the tower over?
Well, because the card is the tower, the falling tower. So it's a symbol against hubris and human ignorance. So Babel, we want to build things that last forever, but the Creator is always going to teach us humility. Yes.
Okay.
So I think that's what the card
Yeah,
stands for.
okay.
We need humility.
Yeah.
And I think there's too much arrogance in the world, too much hubris. And you can see that in some
Everyone.
of the leaders we've talked about. But,
Yeah.
I mean, the whole planet will one day be Panku'd in that we're going to be swallowed up by the sun. About 10 billion years. 1 billion years from now, life on this planet will no longer be feasible because the sun is increasing in brightness by about 10% every billion years. So after about 10 billion years, life won't be here. This planet will be Panku'd. We'll all be just,
Global warming, well,
Well, that's when it kicks in big time. What we're having now is just tiny tremors.
Who lives will see.
So that teaches, it should teach humanity humility.
but it
We
doesn't.
should care for this beautiful planet whilst we've still got it. I want my descendants to,
Yes.
enjoy it, and
Yeah.
I want them to enjoy the libraries like I have, which to me is like all that precious heritage. I want them to read Plato and all the philosophies, and I don't want us to turn into a premature Panku type experience of the falling tower. So let's, and one of the projects in the 99 Names of Peace is to crack the speed of light, travel, so that we can actually take human civilization to other worlds.
But
in the future.
The speed of light is changing. There was a wonderful book by a Portuguese called João Miguel, and he was after a party at Oxford University.
Ah.
A very good one. He's walking across the Christchurch Fields or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
And the idea suddenly came to him, and he
Yeah.
worked with an American guy, and he decided that speed of light is actually variable, but I can't remember whether it's increasing or decreasing.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. Yeah,
It's fascinating.
We discussed that book a
Did
few
you?
months ago in the Philosophy Club.
Did you?
Yeah, we did, because I have the book.
So is it actually speeding up?
Well, I find his ideas slightly limiting, because what he says in his carefully argued papers is that in the very dawn of creation, when the Big Bang happened, then the speed of light was different.
Yeah.
What he seems to be saying is that then it slowed down and it stuck at 186,000 miles per second, and it stayed there forever. So he's a bit limited in what he says. He's
so
not changing
at the moment
and going up
it
and
is
down.
not.
It's fixed now.
It's
Yeah. All he's arguing for is that brief window at the moment of the Big Bang. It was almost infinite,
Faster.
which
during the
led
Big
it was
Bang.
faster then.
yeah.
And I find that model interesting, but slightly limited, because I'm with Aristotle. I want an eternal universe that has moments of creation, expansion,
Yeah.
and then
But
moments of
infinity's
contraction.
out of fashion amongst physicists.
Yeah, well, I think they're wrong. You see, I think
Okay,
they're stuck in
fair
a
enough.
medieval paradigm.
Fair enough.
I think infinity should come back into flavour myself.
Okay.
But then we can discuss what we mean by infinity.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's the infinite question.
yeah, it's one of those ultimate questions. But that's why I wrote a book about religious mathematics. One of my is a study of religious mathematics. It's a new field where I'm combining religious studies with mathematical sciences. And there's a whole chapter on infinity. And when I went to India and talked to the Jains, who were big on infinity,
Yeah.
they say there are 6 types of infinity. So
Ah.
we'll have that discussion another time, maybe. But I think Panku is, I have a great respect for Chinese thought, Chinese science,
Me too.
Mo Tzu and Confucius and so on, and Lao Tzu. So anyway, I think I can see a link between these. and the moral teachings that they're bringing us. Yes. Okay, any final thoughts before we finish? Any last questions or comments?
No, just the latest news regarding Syria. I guess the new leader, Golitz, says he's gonna stop the atrocities that are going on.
He said that a couple of days ago, but they're still going on. I hope he succeeds this time, because it's totally outrageous. Yeah, that's totally and the point of Denis Kucinich is that it was the West that empowered these extremist Muslims, and we're reaping the whirlwind, you know.
We talked about Putin and Trump and we have to learn of the mistakes throughout the history, but that does not really help when you have people that so-called world leaders that rewrite history as they would like it to have been and makes that the truth. How can you counter that?
Yeah.
Well, that's why we need historians, you know, like Tim Snyder, like myself,
But it doesn't help.
like A.G.P. Taylor. We were talking about him earlier.
But that's what I said.
You know.
It doesn't really help when the leaders, the totalitarian leaders like Putin,
Yeah,
just
twist and change history.
Yeah, erases it and makes a new one.
Yeah.
Or Netanyahu and the extreme Zionists who are
Netanyahu.
writing out the Palestinians from
Yeah.
history, saying there's no such thing
Yeah.
as Palestinians, they don't have a history, or
It's
just
our
kill them.
land.
Which is, you know, yeah, it's something that dictators have been doing for a very long time. Is
Yeah.
writing history to support their own club. What's the antidote? Well, it is professional historians, it is people that care about sources. It's Herodotus who founded history as a discipline in Greece, and who took time to go and interview people and witnesses. And it's the trouble is, and this is my question, is historians take a very long time to work. It's a very painstaking thing. I wrote a book on 9/11, what happened on 9/11. I'm the only academically trained historian to tackle the subject. It took me a year or two to actually write, and I don't know what happened or who was behind it. I do know that the Bush Commission was a bunch of fake stuff. It's not true. But I can't, you know, it takes ages to write history. And by the time you spent 10 or 20 years doing the history, the totalitarian people have run on and caused another 10 wars with their lies. It's much easier to destroy things with lies than it is to reconstruct them with truth. And that's a kind of knowledge entropy that seems to be built into human societies. The more we elevate people of ignorance into power, like the Trumps and the Putins, the more difficult it is for the real wisdom people to clear up their mistakes, you know. And people want short-term solutions, so they vote for the Trump or the Hitler or the Stalin, you know. That's a problem.
What was your conclusion about 9/11, or did you find that it was impossible to have a conclusion?
No, I reached a conclusion, which is that we should set up an international commission of inquiry of historians,
Yeah.
and get some real serious
Yeah,
top-level
'cause
historians
I
to
had,
sift through it.
The German Jewish friend I knew in Ireland, whose views on politics I respect, he said it had all the hallmarks of a Mossad operation.
Yes, that
According
is
to
one
him.
of the theories
Yeah.
that I explored in the book, which
Yeah.
is 2 volumes. And there were 20 theories I explored. That's one of them.
20.
Yeah.
Oh.
And you're welcome to look at the book whilst you're here. I can send you a
Uh,
PDF, but I haven't come to a final conclusion. And
No.
we meet online every year on 9/11
Yeah.
to debate and discuss.
Do you?
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
ongoing work.
Yeah.
And one thing, the only good thing, well, there's maybe 1 or 2 good things I'll say about the Trump administration, is that he has appointed someone called Luna, Miss Luna, who's a congresswoman from Florida, to run a special office of investigation into things like the Kennedy assassination, the Robert Kennedy assassination, and 9/11.
Okay.
And I've actually written to Miss Luna, telling her I'd set up this commission of inquiry into 9/11, saying, go for it, woman. I'm willing to be here, and you can read my
Okay.
book. You know,
Okay.
so I will collaborate with them, even
Yeah,
though it's a
yeah.
Trump appointee,
Yeah.
because I want to find the truth. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
so it'd be an irony if Trump could actually, you know,
It
ferret
would
out the
be-
truth of
Yeah,
9/11.
very welcome.
It's one of his promises, isn't it?
It is, and so let's hold him to account.
He did.
But-
He did say when he was browbeating Zelensky that he wanted peace as well, but it's peace on his terms.
Well,
He's
he's a confused chap. Let's just say
Yeah, he's some Putin's.
Yeah. Yes.
all human beings are complex beings, and we have Ahriman and Ahura Mazda elements within us all. You know, and when you get to be very powerful and rich, you get
And
tempted.
Ahura Mazda is good, and
Yeah. Ahriman is
Ahriman
is evil.
Evil.
Yeah. But I would say psychologically, as a Jungian, that we have these traces inside us all, and our job is to reach a consensus and to move forward in.
You don't have paper copies of this.
Yeah, you can get it online. There's the big one. You can order it, and it's sent to you as a poster.
Oh, great.
Yeah, these are ones I just printed personally.
Okay.
But the actual
So
poster is
all I
available.
need to do is order it from
Yeah.
which? Does it matter which?
No, I'll explain later.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. There's a new website that's got
Okay.
all the ordering
Okay.
details on it. But yeah, okay, so look, thank you very much for coming. Thanks for today's discussion. Haven't completely solved the problems of the world, but we've begun the conversation to that. So let's pray that we're able to meet again next week and continue the discussion.
Well, thank you for a very enlightening
You're welcome.
session, indeed.